I know it's easier said than done, but just looking at yourself, you are not late in life or you're not too early. It's more about being in your own pace and not looking at the others, because how can you be late in your own life? And I've also come to accept the fact that maybe I'm just someone who doesn't know what I want. And that can be scary because I feel like you always need something that you can hold on to and that gives you some kind of stability. But what if you're just a person that loves to try new things, that loves to go to new places?
Elisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad to meet you and to have you on. What encouraged you to go to Bali, and how has your experience been? What's been your biggest lesson and takeaway so far from the trip?
So I'm alone in Bali, and this is my first solo trip that I've ever done. So when I was thinking about going on a solo trip, I was like, okay, where do I want to go? And I've wanted to come to Bali for such a long time. So combining this journey that I've been on, spending more time alone and like enjoying spending time with myself. And I've come to enjoy my time here so much because I've learned so much about myself. I've learned to trust myself and that I actually know what I'm doing and that it's okay to struggle with like everything that's new. It's a new country, new culture, new language. I've never been outside of Europe before, this far away from my family and friends. So it's been really a journey of growth here. And every time when I've had the feeling that I might be overwhelmed or I'm really struggling, it just showed me how much I can actually accomplish by myself and that I can trust myself.
That's so beautiful. I so agree. I think solo travel is just such a great way to not only get to know yourself in such a beautiful way, but also gain confidence. I think it shows us that we can do things that we never really thought we could, or that we maybe used to depend on others to do.
Exactly, yeah. And I feel like traveling alone, it just broadens your horizons so much.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I actually did my first solo trip to Europe this summer. I went to France and then Italy. So I had the same experience. I was only there for 2 weeks, but it was still the best trip I've ever been on, not because of the place, but literally just because I've never had that much alone time. And I feel like I just developed this relationship with myself and saw this side of myself that I haven't really ever experienced before. And I just feel like it opened this whole new door of this like self-growth journey and self-love journey.
Yeah, you just get to know yourself, not better, but in a different way, which is super important for, yeah, if you're trying to find out who you are, what you want in life.
Did you go to Bali looking to grow in a specific way, or has there been one specific area that you've been really excited about how you've grown and developed?
I've actually come with like I had no idea what I wanted to do with myself in Bali or what I wanted to focus on because I'm such a organizing type of person. I organize everything. I always structure everything. I overthink about everything. And this was just this opportunity for me to just come here without any organizing and structuring, like obviously planning the trip, preparing for coming here, but I just didn't want to put that kind of pressure on myself. And I just wanted to go with the flow and see what happens if I'm not too much in my head and I was actually surprised how well it went because I stress so much about everything and I'm picturing all the worst case scenarios and it was refreshing to just not do that. And I was so surprised because I actually managed without panicking and stressing and organizing and everything. And it showed me that there is this other side of me that I just that I just let go and left behind in Europe, which is something that I've just never experienced it this way.
I'm so glad you shared that because I 100% resonate. I think it's really hard when you are that type of person who's such a planner and likes structure and likes to control situations. It's hard to go on that kind of trip where you're just like, oh, I'm going to go with the flow. I'm just going to see what happens. That's actually really terrifying and intimidating. And that trip that I mentioned before, I took the same approach. I went in super loose, like, okay, I could do this in this place, or I could do none of that. And I didn't make any reservations or structure necessarily. And that was both exciting and scary all at the same time. But I think, as you mentioned, the more you lean into just letting go and telling yourself every day, no, I don't have to control that. It doesn't have to go a certain way. And that's actually a much more enjoyable way to go about life or travel or whatever it is. You start to build that muscle and you start to get more and more comfortable with the idea of not having to control and the idea of just being able to go with the flow and see what happens. And I think that's like the best way to enjoy life. So I feel like that's such an amazing insight and lesson that you've gained from this experience so far.
Yeah, I was extremely surprised because I didn't think I could do it. So it taught me that, like I said before, I can really trust myself and just the
Yeah.
feeling that I have. And I just had this feeling with Bali, and I just felt like I can really be in the moment, like be present. And I felt like I can breathe and just enjoy it in a different way.
That's so beautiful. And self trust, I think, too. I did a whole episode on it with this woman who actually wrote a book all about self trust. And we talk about this idea that to trust yourself, you have to actually take action to provide evidence to yourself and to prove to yourself that you can do these things. You know, otherwise, it's harder to build the trust unless you actually take a risk and go try the thing.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. I couldn't agree more. Because I feel like what I've been also struggling with is trusting my own choices. Because so far in my life, I made sure I talked to my parents, my friends, my partner,
yeah.
my siblings, and deciding to come to Bali, it was a decision that I made myself without talking to anyone before I bought the ticket. So I bought the plane ticket and then I told everyone about it because I
Wow.
just wanted it to be my decision without anyone, yeah, just giving me their opinion about it. And I felt like that was so good for my personal growth because, like I said before, I've been struggling with trusting my own choices because I'm always questioning them. It's good to ask for help and like opinions of others, but I feel like it just reached a level where I wasn't trusting myself, and that's just the worst that can actually happen to yourself because you need to trust yourself in order to live the life the way you want to.
Absolutely. That's so amazing. I think a lot of us can relate to this idea that we want external validation from others. I often rely a lot on external validation. At least I used to, and that's a big journey that I'm on is practicing giving myself that validation that I used to seek in others, especially when we're young and used to going to our parents and asking for permission, or maybe we've always had a significant other to turn to. It's almost like it's ingrained in us to seek permission and to ask first and not live our lives and take control and autonomy over our lives. And so I think that's a huge step on your end to do such a major thing and just rip the band-aid and say, I'm going. And now you're just on this trajectory where you just keep doing things every single day for yourself and by yourself, which I think is so, so cool and admirable. And you're also 28, right?
Yes, exactly.
So you talk about being 28 and you share in your content. I'm 28, but I feel still very uncertain about life and what you're doing often and the path that you're going on. Even though people might look on the surface on your social media page and see that you're in Bali and living it up. So, wondering if you can open up a little bit about that and the feelings that you do have being 28 and uncertain about life, because I know a lot of people might need to hear that and can resonate with that.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to talk more about it because, like you said, I do that on my profile because I feel like it's so important to actually share these things. I feel like we talk too little about it, and I feel like so many are struggling with the same thing. Like you said, I'm 28 and I have no idea what I want in my life, and that's okay. But it just takes a little bit of time to accept that because I feel like society and like norms and values that come through, I don't know, school and parents and just yeah, the people you surround yourself with, like also the media, everything that is like portrayed in some way, it gives you the feeling that you should know who you are, what you want when you're in your late 20s. Like turning 30 is such a big number because you are supposed to know what you want, and that's just not the reality because everyone is on their own path. And for some, it's really clear from the beginning and they just follow that path and it works out for them, which is amazing. But I feel like a lot of people are not on that path and they get this feeling that something is wrong with them or it's not okay or they should know by now because now they're reaching a certain age. But age is just a number, and I feel like it depends on so many different things, like what experience we have had in our lives, what we've maybe went through, and also like in what kind of environment are we living. Is it an environment in that we can grow? Is it an environment that kind of prevents us from becoming who we want to be. And there are like so many factors, and I feel like all this external stimuli, it's filled with negativity, and that's why it makes so many people so wary when they approach 30 and they're like, I still don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I should have kids. I don't know if I want that house. I don't know if I want that job. I would love to do something else, but now I'm already so old, so I can't change that. And that's just a mindset that is conveyed through so many different channels. And I just feel like we should be more aware of ourselves without comparing ourselves to someone else. I know it's also always easier said than done, but if you actually just looking at yourself, you are not late in life or you're not too early. So it's more about being in your own pace and not looking at the others, because how can you be late in your own life if it's your own life? So it's more about finding your own pace. And for someone that is maybe already knowing, like I said, with 20 what they want, and they may be changing everything when they're 40. For others, it's they know it their whole lives. Others don't know. And I've also come to accept the fact that maybe I'm just someone who doesn't know what I want. And that can be scary, because I feel like you always need something that you can hold on to and that gives you some kind of stability. But what if you're just a person that loves to try new things, that loves to go to new places, that loves to meet new people, someone who's just open to the world and doesn't need this kind of really structured, clear path just so that you can say, oh, I'm on the right path, or this is what I want to do before I'm 30, or I want to reach this when I'm 30.
I couldn't agree more with everything you said. And thank you so much for opening up about all of that. I don't know if you follow Kate Bursky, but I've had her on the podcast a couple times, and she's written this book called 30 Phobia, which I'm going to have to send to you after this conversation. I love the work she does, and I try to share it with as many people as I can because I think it's so important, especially for anyone in their 20s, but even in their 30s, who are having these thoughts that I need to be at this phase by that age, and oh, I'm behind, and oh, these are supposed to be the best years of my life, and I'm feeling anxious and unhappy. I'm like doing it wrong. She helps you unlearn all of these myths. And it just speaks right to my soul. And I know it will speak right to your soul and so many people's soul, because we are fed all these messages that we should be doing this thing, or that we should have it figured out by now. We're 2 years off from 30 or whatnot. And it's untrue. One thing that she said that totally just resonates with me, and I always remind myself of this, is our 20s is just a big old trial run. Like, these are the years to just,
Exactly.
yeah, like we're just meant to be figuring it out in these years. We're not meant to have it figured out. And I think that's a big distinction. And that's why I'm so passionate about self development and growth journey work, because these are the years to do that. And these are the years to lean into finding ourselves. And then think on the flip side, if you just do things in life to meet a deadline or meet a societal expectation or standard, those things are not going to be aligned with who you truly are. You're going to be doing it to either
No.
check a box or to please other people in your life. And then let's say you're like late in your 30s or in your 40s, and all of a sudden you like are living this life that really doesn't feel aligned with you at all, or maybe it doesn't make you happy at all. And all of a sudden you kind of question, how did I even end up here? Why did I
Exactly.
choose this path? And I think if we lie to ourselves and don't do the work to figure out what's going to be aligned with us, we could end up in a path that's really not for us. And I think, fortunately and unfortunately, that takes embracing the discomfort of uncertainty and just trial and error in our 20s. And it can feel really uncomfortable, but I think that's the path to true fulfillment, which is literally why I started the podcast. And it's the path to finding what is really aligned for us. And like you said, it doesn't have to be so structured. It can be like, I'm going to take these next 10 years to just try new things and discover. There's no right or wrong when it comes to this.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. I feel like the 20s are there to take risks. This is the time to try things out and maybe find out what you like to do. And like you said, these are the years of uncertainty, and I feel like we should embrace them more. And I'm also such a strong believer in getting out of your comfort zone, because
Yeah.
it's just the best feeling. I know it's scary at first, but if you can start small, if you do something small that is outside of your comfort zone, after you've done it, it's just the best feeling. You feel so much joy, and it's such a high because you're feeling this for the very first time. That's why I'm always telling people, please get out of your comfort zone. It's the best thing that you can do for yourself, and especially in your 20s when you have the time to do that. You have, like you said, you have this trial and error run. Just try things out. I feel like often we just have this idea in our head of what we want, but obviously we haven't experienced that yet. So why not try out a couple of things to see if it actually is something that we want, or maybe it just helps us to figure out what we don't want. Everyone is always looking for what they want, but I feel like sometimes it just helps to try things out and then realize, oh, I don't want that. And sometimes this realization already helps with so many things.
100%. I absolutely agree. And I think coming back to this idea of our 20s being trial and error, I think most of the things we try in our 20s, they might end up being things we realize we don't want. And that's okay. I think it is a big misconception that life is meant to be filled with just positive experiences. But the truth is, sometimes the best realizations and the lessons that we need to learn come from the more difficult experiences, or maybe
Yeah.
the experiences that weren't very enjoyable in the moment. And again, exactly like you said, that only can come from stepping outside of your comfort zone and learning those lessons. And you're literally practicing what you preach. You've spoken to in the beginning how uncomfortable it is for you to just up and go to Bali, and you're living it every single day. You're spending time alone. You're doing all of these things that so many people say, oh, I could never do that. I could never spend that time alone. I could never just up and root my life. There's too much uncertainty. And so, in doing what you're doing, you're showing to others the beauty and growth that can come from stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's a journey. So you start small, and then at some point, you don't even realize that you are doing now things that were once outside of your comfort zone because you just grow with it. And if I just look back at now, 2024, it's crazy what has happened and what I've done to get out of my comfort zone. And I never would have done that like when I was younger because I was just too afraid. But by doing small things, it just helped me to grow and just it made me who I am today, which has opened up so many opportunities just because I dared to do things.
And I think we need to recognize every time we do something where we put ourselves out there and take a risk, and kind of celebrate those small wins and reflect on, like, wow, look at how far I've come from like last year, Camille, or even last month, Camille. And
Definitely.
if we don't acknowledge those milestones and that growth, then it's easy to feel like we aren't growing. But I can guarantee you, if anyone does the work and reflects on, wow, last year I would have handled that so differently, or last year I never would have done something like this. It's important to take moments of reflection and acknowledge and admire how far we have come, even if it is in small ways, as you've said, because I think that also can contribute to our level of self-trust once we recognize, wow, no, I actually like am doing great things and I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like we're always setting the bar higher and higher. So
Yeah.
we don't really realize what we've already accomplished because, again, the bar is always higher. So we try to accomplish even more. And then, but if you really take the time, like you said, to reflect and look at what you've already accomplished, what you've done compared to maybe last year, or like you said, last month, last week, there is so much change. Like you have done so much to grow already, but you just need to take the time to actually look at it and, yeah, appreciate it.
100%. The goalpost always moving is so, so real. And it's terrifying because I think we all deep down believe that there's this point in life where we're just going to be like super happy, and we're going to feel fulfilled once we figure out what the career is, or once we get that relationship, or once we get that certain income. I think we keep telling ourselves deep down, oh, I'll be happy when, but it's never true. And I just love hearing people like you share that you're still uncertain and lost, or any kind of successful business person, celebrity, like whoever it is out there, share that they are still uncertain or still unfulfilled or not really sure like what's next, or yeah, that didn't make me as happy as I thought it would. Because it's a really important reminder for us all to remember that it's not one point, or it's not one accomplishment or goal that's going to bring us happiness. It's how we choose to live our life every single day. That's another reason why I'm very grateful that you're opening up and sharing about the fact that no, you're still like uncertain of what you even want to do. And your life, looks great probably to others on social media, but it's just another reminder that we can't compare because nobody knows what someone is feeling beyond that, deeper than the surface. And it's not those surface level things that actually contribute to fulfillment. It's the deeper journey and it's how you live your life every day.
Yeah, definitely. Like on my profile, I'm always about like becoming this best version of myself. And the best version means something different for everyone. It's not that you have to be the best at everything or have like unrealistic expectations. But if you're already doing 1% better than you did yesterday, that's already so great. And I always tell people when they ask me like, oh, like, how did you become this best version of myself? And I'm like, I'm still not the best version of myself and I'll never reach that goal because it's not realistic, because it's a process. I keep working on myself just because I also enjoy it, because I feel like I get to know myself better. I'm more in touch with myself. I trust myself. I feel what feels good, what I want to do. Like it helps me to navigate my life in a way. And that's why I feel like I'm always saying it's a process. You will never reach that point. Like you just said, there isn't like a list of things that you take off that you're like, okay, I achieved this and now I'm happy, because it's just how humans work. There is always the next goal. There's just always the next thing that they want. And that's good because it drives you and encourages you to do things. But we have to be realistic about it. And that's why I always share these things on my profile. And that's why I also share that I'm struggling with things. Like you said, on social media, it can easily look like everyone has their life together, everything is perfect, but that's just not real, because everyone struggles with things. Some people just show it more, others hide it better. Some want to talk about it, others don't. And I feel like during my time talking about mental health and mindset on my profile, I've just opened up so much, because I feel it's so important to show people like there are other people who are going through the same things. There are other people who struggle as well. And what I've experienced in the last couple of years since I've been on my journey, everyone seems fine until you have a longer, deeper conversation with them and you realize everyone struggles with something. And that's why I always preach to just be kind to one another, because you never know what someone else is going through, and the slightest thing that you say can be hurtful to another one because they're struggling with exactly what you made a joke about, or I don't know. So I'm always preaching that please be kind to one another. You never know what someone is going through. Everyone struggles, even though they're not maybe showing it as much as other people. And I feel like we need to normalize that, especially with like all the young people that are like on social media and growing up with like this generation and this mindset that please just be kind.
I couldn't agree more. And I think too, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and express what we're actually feeling and let go of this attempt to try to come across as being perfect to others, then it encourages others to also be vulnerable and open up about what they're actually feeling. And I feel like that authenticity and vulnerability is such a beautiful thing, because I think that's where genuine deep connections come from, whether it be people on social media or relationships in your life. I think the more authentic you are and the more vulnerable you are with those people, the deeper you connect. Like even this past week, I've been like a bit down. Like work has been a lot. The weather is cold and like gray here, and seasonal depression is so real. And I've opened up about it to like my mom or a couple of friends, and they immediately were like, oh, I 100% feel that too. And it almost just connects us on this deeper level, because I took the step to say, yeah, I'm actually just like not that great this week, rather than being like, oh, I'm perfect and everything is fine. How about you? Depending on how vulnerable you show up for your relationships and to other people, I think that sets the bar as to whether they are going to feel comfortable to show up vulnerably and authentically in the relationship as well.
Yeah, definitely 100%. I feel like I have so many great conversations with so many people, also like on social media, like my community, they're like so amazing. And like you said, you just connect on a deeper level. And I just love to talk to everyone who's going through the same things. And it's not even that you have the solution for everything, but sometimes it just helps to let people know, hey, you're not alone with this. Like I struggle with the same things and it's completely fine. And I've never had a negative experience with sharing my feelings or saying what I struggle about. And everyone is always super supportive and yeah, they always resonate in some way.
Yeah, 100%. I'm curious, how have your relationships beyond social media, just in your life, how have they evolved on this journey of yours?
Oh, that's a good question because a lot has happened. I've realized that some people, you know how they say that some people are just meant to be in your life for a certain amount of time, others are meant to be there for your whole life. And I feel like that's so true because I've actually lost contact to a couple of friends or like people that were more present in my life during my journey just because I realized we are not sharing the same values and not in like a way that we, I don't know, had a discussion about it or like we had a fight or anything. It's just I realized my priorities lie somewhere else, and I feel like I've just tried to see who I feel comfortable with and who is giving me energy and like positivity. And I don't mean that you don't have like difficult conversations with your friends, because you do have them, but it's just it still is a different if someone is giving you still energy and giving you a good feeling about opening up, about sharing, or if it's that it makes you even more uncomfortable and you just don't feel good about it. So I've like in a natural way it just happened that I've lost some people where I just felt like we don't really vibe anymore. Like your energy is just draining mine, and I just really wanted to focus on myself and the people that are good for me. Like I said, that give me energy, that support me, that that give me love and just that I like spending time with. And I feel like these are the people that are meant to be in your life, even for a longer period of time or maybe forever, you never know. But I just really love the idea also, like during the self-growth journey, I've changed a lot as well because I've reflected on so many different things on who I am and how I'm behaving or what I've done in the past and how I'm behaving now. And just I have grown so much that I've obviously changed, and I feel it's a good thing because I recently read this, I don't remember where, but it was about your true self will attract the right people, and the people that don't align with your true self, they're just not your people, they're not meant to stay. And I just really love the idea that your authentic self will draw the right people to you, and everyone who's not right for you won't stay. And I just really love that because the people that are meant to be in your life, they will accept you the way you are, and it just matches.
That's so beautiful. I also like to say, as we're growing and changing and evolving, our relationships should grow and change and evolve as well. And the reality is, some will grow and evolve with us and others
Yeah.
won't. And it's easy to take it personally or feel hurt or sad when, maybe certain friendships get left behind, or we're not as close to people as we used to be, or people who we thought were going to be lifelong friends aren't. It's a hard
Yeah.
pill to swallow and reality to face, but at the end of the day, you can tell when a friendship's being forced. You can feel when someone's maybe like no longer meant to be in your life. And I've experienced that too. And my mindset is, I don't have any negative feelings towards people. It's more just that, okay, I'm just evolving into these different phases and transition periods in life. And whether that be geographically or we're on different places in our growth journey, it just no longer aligns. And like you said, it's not like a conversation or anything. It's just like we're not close anymore. And I think every single person experiences that on some level. And I think it's also important to talk about. It doesn't have to be anything negative. I think it's important to still act with kindness and love towards everyone. But realistically, we don't have to stay close with every single friend in our life forever. There's a reason, there's a
No.
season or lifetime, and every friendship will serve a different purpose at a different point. And I think, especially if you're in a growth journey, it's very normal and natural to evolve in and out of different friendships and relationships because you're evolving at this speed and capacity.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like what I've also learned in the last couple of years, I feel like I've thrown around the word friend too easily because I feel like not everyone is your friend. It's totally okay that someone is your neighbor or he's your colleague or she's, I don't know, just someone, and not everyone is your friend. And I feel like this realization also put everything into perspective, and I really realize what it is that I value in friendships and what actually makes a good friend. Or there's a reason why these people are my best friends. And like you said, it's okay, not everyone will stay in your life, and it's okay to differentiate, to say, this is my colleague, this is my neighbor, this is my friend. And there is no harm in saying that, because there is like no negative feeling with that. I mean, you're still being kind, you like them, but it's just friend it is a big word, and I feel like we should be still like careful how we use it.
That is a really great insight, and I've never really considered that before, but it is really true. Even when you go out and meet a new person, you might get excited because you hit it off in your 30-minute conversation, but you really don't know that person on a deeper level yet. You find out you have like a couple things in common. You're like, oh my God, you're my new best friend. We have to hang out all the time. And then how often does that actually come to fruition? I think
Exactly.
it takes actually getting to know someone to consider them a friend. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to think about that moving forward. But I also think it is great to have those connections in your life, whether it be neighbors or like going to an office and chatting with my coworkers. That contributes to a lot of the connection I feel every single day. And I become friends with like the doorman, and when I go to a coffee shop, I spark conversation. All of these small connections throughout the day, I also really do think contribute to our happiness and feeling of connectivity in this world. It doesn't have to be that we have a social plan with a friend every night. So I think they all are very important in life, but I do think that's a really important note that you mentioned, that not everyone has to be that friend level that we're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like what you just said, I love talking to new people, meeting new people, because if you really think about it, everyone has a different background, how they grew up and their family and school, maybe university or whatever they have been doing, or especially now especially when you're traveling, also now here in Bali, you meet so many people from different countries. Even when I'm in Germany, I feel like it's great to talk to new people, but here I feel like it just broadens my horizons so much. And with every person that you talk to, you learn something new, because their reality is a different one than my own. And I always learn something where I'm like, oh my God, I've never considered that, or I've never thought about it, because it's not relevant maybe in my culture and in the life that I'm living. And that's why I feel like it's always good to talk to new people and connect, like you said, and also throughout the world, because it brings you so much joy.
I couldn't agree more, especially when you are solo traveling, as you said. You are more inclined to talk to new people, and you might meet more people with different perspective wherever you are in your everyday life. Spark conversation with someone, whatever city or town you're living in. I'm 100% certain that whoever you talk to, you can gain to learn something from. You know, hear a part of their story that might shift your perspective. It'll widen your perspective. And not only will you maybe make their day and make them feel more connected, but you will feel that way. You will feel more connected, and you might learn something. So I think it is important to have an open mind and act with kindness even to strangers, and just get curious about other people's stories. I think that's one of the best ways to grow and experience a more colorful and fulfilling life, for sure.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah.
Elisa, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your stories and just having a great conversation with me. I had a blast.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks, Elisa. Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode of Unfulfilled. Please send this to someone in your life who you think might need to hear this message. And again, press follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. Would mean the world to me. Thank you again for showing up today for yourself. And I'll see you all again soon on your journey to becoming more fulfilled.